Miranda was striding ahead of Bill. She cried out, "Rex, you stupid, stupid dog! You almost tripped me!"
"Myrrh, simmer down."
Bill sounded irritable, at the end of his patience. Miranda didn't reply, but hurried into the orchard of ancient apple trees. Bill followed, crashing through the brush. Charlotte could hear a few more words. "I'm not kidding. It's over, Bill." Then she heard the hum of their voices, but no words, and then they were gone. "Gosh," Charlotte whispered to herself. Charlotte had had a crush on Bill Cooper for years. Coop was a hunk, but so easygoing and funny that when you talked with him, you could almost forget how handsome he was. She seldom saw him, even though he lived right next door. Of course, right next door was a general term. Nona's property consisted of 10 acres with 50 feet of waterfront on Pulpus Harbor, and the Coopers' land was about the same size. With all the plantings, you couldn't see one house from the other, even in winter when all the leaves had fallen. Like the Wheelwrights, the Coopers mostly summered on the island, the Wheelwrights coming from Boston, the Coopers from New York. Eons ago, when they were all little kids, Coop had played a lot with Charlotte's brother Oliver, even though Oliver was younger, because Coop was an only child, and the two families got together several times over the summer for cocktails or barbecues. Then came the years when they rarely saw each other, everyone off in college and backpacking in summer, instead of coming to the island. Coop lived in California for a while, but 3 years ago his parents moved to Florida, and Coop moved into the island house, telling everyone he wanted to live here permanently. He ran a computer software business from his 1960s wandering ranch house, mixed his plasma TV and Bose CD player in with his family's summery bamboo and teak furniture, and was content. Mostly he allowed his land to grow wild, except for a small crop of butter and sugar corn, famous for its sweetness. At the end of the summer, he held a party outdoors, a clam bake with fresh corn, cold beer, and icy champagne. Charlotte had seen Coop and Miranda about town now and then, when she went in to catch a movie or pick up a prescription at the pharmacy. It was obvious why any man would fall in love with Miranda Fellows. She was a dark-eyed beauty, hired to run Luxe Volupte, an upscale clothing shop on Center Street. She was British, and her accent thrilled the young, beautiful, rich social climbing set, men as well as women. She was such a snob, and Coop was such a genuine good guy, they seemed like an odd pair, but Charlotte hadn't allowed herself romantic thoughts about Coop. She hadn't allowed herself romantic thoughts about any man for quite a long while. Her own move to Nantucket had not been a light-hearted, impulsive act. She'd thought about it a lot. She'd searched her soul. She came to Nantucket to get away from men, at least from one particular man, and to somehow balance with good acts the wrong she'd done. Her organic garden was her own self-imposed penance and repentance, and she'd been diligent and hard-working and nun-like for 3 years. She didn't know when her penance would be over, but she knew she would find out when the time came. Until then, she forced herself to work hard, every day. She stood up and stretched. On this June day, the sky was overcast, but Charlotte wore a long-sleeved t-shirt, a pair of striped bib overalls, and the floppy straw hat. She'd been burned too many times after carelessly exposing her pale skin to the sun. She'd learned her lesson. Gardening seemed endlessly full of lessons, ones that had to be learned through personal experience instead of research and memorization. She liked that about working in a garden, the directness of it, the intimacy. It was so personal. No wonder people talked to their plants. Sometimes Charlotte sang to hers. And there was one stubborn wild rose, a rogue at the far end of the rows of winter onions, that had proudly kept a few green leaves all through the frigid winter. Charlotte actually visited it, touching its chilled leaves and whispering to it to cheer it on. When a failing plant began to thrive, she felt it as a personal victory. She believed it was her good work that somehow brought about good results. Now she scrutinized the long rows of plants shining beneath the sun. At the far end, Jorge, her part-time employee, was plucking weeds and tossing them into a bucket. Jorge was a good, fat